Hey, it's me, the mouth of the South, Jimmy Hart. Hey, check out my new tag team, baby, Monty and the Pharaoh.
Hey, Jimmy, don't forget to tell them about Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast.
Well, you know what, I would, but you already did it.
It's Monty and the Pharaoh.
The Monty and Pharaoh Show.
Monty and Pharaoh, bro.
Monty and the Pharaoh.
The Monty and the Pharaoh.
You've got the future Hall of Famers, that Rucker, Marty Jannetty, and MJ in the house, and I'm sitting here with two more future Hall of Famers, Monty and the Pharaoh. We're doing that stuff and we gonna rock it.
Monty and the Pharaoh.
It's Monty and the Pharaoh.
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 And Monty and the Pharaoh. Oh, is it Monty and the Pharaoh?
Monty and the Pharaoh.
Monty and the Pharaoh.
Hey, cut music. When you want the best in professional wrestling, Long Island, there's only one place you're gonna get it, right here.
Monty and the Pharaoh. Now, that's not just the coolest, and that's not just the best. That, my friends, is just incredible.
Monty and the Pharaoh. Duh.
Hey! Nikita Koloff, the Russian Nightmare! And you're watching the #1 show on Long Island with Monty and the Pharaoh.
Is that you?
Yeah, now look a little closer.
All right, I'm looking closer. What am I supposed
I
to
wish
say?
I could see. Sorry, Jackie.
Oh, you're giving the finger, Jackie.
Is
What are
he
you doing?
really?
Giving the finger.
Look at him.
Wait a minute! Oh my God!
All right, welcome to Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast, straight out of Indie Music TV. Special guest, Mr. Jackie the Jokeman Martling, who is not in studio right now. We thought it best that with COVID going around, we could just do a quick V-mix with this legend. Jackie, can you hear me?
Yes, I can, and I need all of your sponsors. I need every one of them.
Stay away from
you
it.
just put
Stay
me in
away from it,
contact.
brother. Jackie, I really appreciate you coming on our show. I know it's a pro wrestling broadcast, but having an icon at your level,
Nice.
we could really appreciate you
I'll tell
coming
you,
on.
I'm glad I'm not there in your opening. I saw you guys beating the hell out of each other. I'm glad I'm not in the middle of all that. You know, I'm going on 35 years old. So the whole world is collapsing around me, so I feel guilty saying, yeah, everything's great. Because everything ain't great. Everything sucks. But as far as I'm concerned, it's terrific. Are you kidding? I got a heart-on a couple of years ago.
Oh, man, that's better that you already one-up me already. You 2 minutes into the show, you one-up me already.
I hate to come on the air and start bragging right away, but, you know, I'm a comic. So, you know, if you say you like somebody or somebody else, all of a sudden you lost half your audience.
Right.
But, you know, I dislike Donald Trump from the time I met him 30 years ago. You
Okay.
know, he came on the Stern Show, and when he was in the room, there was nobody else in the room. He didn't acknowledge anybody even existed. It had nothing to do with politics. He's just a he's an entitled.
He's got
nothing to do with politics.
He's got SDS syndrome. Jackie, don't stink.
Absolutely. In fact,
Wow.
I'm pretty sure he thinks he doesn't. So funny. I know a lot of people that worked on that stupid show, The Apprentice, and he wears diapers. He wears the pants. He's been in his pants for 15 years. You know.
Wait, what do you think of reality shows anyway? What's your opinion on reality shows?
My life is a reality show. You know, the Howard Stern show was a reality show.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
it really was. You know, the cameras right there. You know, they're not reality shows. It's all bull.
The reality show should be worst comics in America because everybody thinks they're a comic
That's
nowadays.
true. That is true. Any take on that, Jackie? There's a lot of clowns running around.
I know. Unfortunately, I'm one of them.
Oh, stop!
Are you guys wrestlers?
No, whoa, maybe he's wrestling size. Look at me. What are you talking about?
Well, I can't see nothing.
Oh,
All
okay.
I know is you're wearing sunglasses. I wound up being good friends with Jerry Cooney, and I went to some boxing matches, but I never went to a wrestling thing.
Okay, okay. So there's episode 1 of the reality show, Monty and the Pharaoh. Take Jackie the Jokeman to a wrestling match.
Jackie, once COVID clears up, you come in the studio, get to meet all these guys. But they'd probably be in awe. They'd probably be in awe to meet with you.
That's
first,
true.
So,
that is true.
Jackie, they're all dead.
Oh,
I'm so old. Like, my parents were big drinkers, and they would go across the street, and they'd leave me at home with my stupid TV dinner, my Swanson TV dinner that I was a big boy and I could put in the oven and heat up.
I love Swanson TV dinners.
I'd sit there in my easy chair and watch hours and hours live from Sunnyside Garden, live from Comac Arena. And I mean, I watched hours and hours of the Graham Brothers and Antonina Rocca and Arnold the Golden Boy.
Okay.
And Killer Kowalski with the claw hold, Bruno Sammartino. All those guys, I knew all of them inside out. The midgets, I used to go crazy, and I sat there for years watching this crap for the most part alone, and it was totally entertaining. Like 3 feet from the screen, burning my retina, watching. And then one day, I don't know whether I was in 3rd grade or in 12th grade, but at some point somebody leaped off the turnbuckle and came down on another guy's head with his knee.
Okay.
And I said, "Wait 1 minute." That would have killed him. And I turned it off. I never watched it again. I said, these guys been bullying me for 5 years. Oh yeah, I mean it's great theater. I love it.
What drove you to be a comedian in the first place? So was it? How does it come about?
You know what? That's a great question. I was never a comic, and I never had any intention of becoming a comic or a comedian. But only because I didn't know that was something you could choose. When you don't know, you don't know. I always thought that to be in show business, let alone be a comedian, you were like touched from above, or it was some kind of divine thing. All of a sudden I realized it's a learned thing. You can learn about radio, you can learn about television, you can go into the industry, whether or not you get plucked out to be an actor or whatever, but I never realized it was a choice. But my whole life I told jokes and told jokes and told jokes, but not with any intention of ever doing it for any other reason but to make people laugh. I organically love to tell dirty jokes. I like to tell jokes, but dirty jokes make people laugh harder. And I just always had done that. And when my rock and roll band broke up at the end of the 70s, the only thing I knew was I wasn't going to get a job. So I continued telling my stupid jokes on stage, and I never turned around and looked back. It was a weird transition. The whole first year I was a comedian, I had a ponytail. When you're a comic, you walk on stage, they know in 10 seconds whether or not they like you.
Right.
You walk up there with a ponytail, they already hate you.
They don't like
without
you
a
already.
doubt, that's for sure.
I didn't give a So I had my own record. 6 months after I became a comedian, I had my own album.
What was the name of that first album?
Calling card.
Jackie, what's the first name?
It's called What Did You Expect?
Wait,
It's still wrapped.
Have you looked at it?
I started looking at it, but we got on a little
turn
early.
Around. Let me see the back. Is
Turning
the back
it around.
color?
It's black and white.
Oh, you got the.
This is an original printing, I think. Yes, I believe it is. And it's wrapped.
Does it feel thick? Does it feel like there's something in it?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Hey, wait a minute. It doesn't feel thick. Hold on a second.
The Colorado number system is in there. But look close. Have you not looked at the front? Have you not looked at it?
We didn't have a chance to look at it.
Well, I don't have my glasses on, so I'm blind. So Mike, help me out.
I'm looking at it right now. So there's 3 young gentlemen with the Vernon School, East Norwich, Long Island, November 1961.
Okay.
Are you the guy in the middle with that striped jacket on? Is that you?
Yeah. Now look a little closer.
All right, I'm looking closer. What am I supposed to
I wish
say?
I could see. Sorry, Jackie.
Oh, you're giving the finger, Jackie.
Is he really?
Giving the finger?
Look at him.
Wait a minute! Jackie, who are your influences comedy-wise? There's something slapstick about you, so I was very curious.
I liked everything. I really liked. My mother used to like to watch me watch Red Skelton. because he laughed at himself and farted
great.
around a lot.
Yes.
I liked the Marx Brothers, but not till later on. I loved Henny Youngman because he told the stupid jokes.
Yes.
Of course, I fell in love with Red Fox and I wound up doing a video with him, which was a major thrill. But I wasn't a guy that listened to Robert Klein or George Carlin or Shelley Berman and listened and memorized.
Understood.
I was just a guy that told jokes. I remembered every joke I ever heard, and I just loved doing that. So I had no real influences other than just wanting to organically be funny. And it wasn't a means to an end. It was just a means to, you know, if I made 10 guys in a bar room laugh for a half hour, you know, it was like I died and went to heaven, you know.
Jackie,
Probably saved me a few dollars on beer too.
What did mom and dad think about your career choices?
Oh.
Well, if they had ever said anything to each other or me, they were both, every single person in my family is funnier than me. Both my brothers, my sister, my mother, my father, they were all really smart, really, really funny. And my mother was such a wise guy. And I used to tell Howard some of the things my mother did. And they, you know, people, you know, all you know is what you know. Like, I grew up in this family. I didn't know that everybody's family wasn't like mine. Like, if I was walking around and my zipper was open, my mother would point down and go, look, it's Ever Ready Eddie. The family was funny. And there was no discouragement. You know, but
that's great.
They drank a lot. My old man really drank a lot in the 60s. But I grew up in, you know, I was in college in the late 60s. You know, it was, you know, tune in, turn on, drop out, and acid and pot. And, you know, it's so funny because people nowadays, you know, like I'll say to somebody who's like 18 years old, do you want to get stoned? And they'll go, no, man, I quit when I was 13. And I'm like, oh, I'll tell you, it was so exciting being on the Stern Show to meet, you know, your idols, you know, like, you know, James Taylor and Roger Daltrey and Leslie West and Clarence Clemens, and those guys became my friends, you know, Joe Walsh. You don't get nervous. You anticipate because you want to do well, you know. It's funny because when you're young and starting out, you know, you're not really, what is there to worry about? And as you get more established and doing better, and all of a sudden people are paying $40 to see you, there's more pressure because you can't go out there and get away with it. You got to go out and beat the hell out of them. But that's the challenge and that's the fun. And if you don't get a little bit of butterflies and get a little anticipative and a little bit nervous, you don't belong in the business. For me, it was always weird because I've always lived with at any point, any asshole can just yell, Baba Booey, you know, and I'm, you know what I mean? It doesn't happen, but you know, it's like the morons heckle. There's 3,000 people there, and I had that thing like, oh God, one idiot in this huge auditorium yelling Baba Booey, you know, like a room full of mousetraps going off. But no matter what I say, either I'm lying or I'm bitter or I'm making it up. You know, there's no win because if I tell the truth and it's not controversial, what good am I? You know what I mean? So, you know.
Right.
Yeah, Scott's a fucking idiot and Howard's a cheap and Gary has bad breath and everybody, you know.
The icon, Jackie the Jokeman Martling. Jackie.
Was that on the level? Good fucking wine, or is that a goof?
Nope, that's a true wine.
Yes, it is.
They're a sponsor of ours, and I got to tell you, being a guest on the show, we're going to send you a bottle if you drink wine.
Jackie doesn't do wine. He only drinks Heinekens.
I don't drink wine.
He just drinks
but
beer.
I have a
Then you're
It's kind of ironic because I have a gigolo service called Big
Nice.
So long ago, there was a place in Mineola called Chuckles. There was a comedy club called Chuckles.
Yes.
And at the end of my shows, I played Stump the Joke Man. But I had recently started on the Stern Show, and people were curious. It was so early on that people knew nothing. They really knew nothing. And people had questions. Because very early on, people would say to me, hey, I heard a rumor, Robin's black. Is that true? You know what I mean? It was that early on. And Howard used to tell everybody that he was half Jewish and half Italian because that would get him all along Long Island. Listen to him, you know, because they're all the Jews and all the Italians. So he's half Jewish, half Italian.
Okay.
But as time goes on, you know, people start thinking about what's going on. And I did my show at Chuckles. And And I said, listen, let's play Stump the Joke, man. You can ask me a joke. But if you want to ask me about, comedy, or if you want to ask me about the Stern Show, whatever you want to ask, I'm wide open to it. And this guy stood up and he said, is Howard really half Jewish? And I said, yes. And he said, what's the other half? And I said, even more Jewish. And then I got governors because they like 922 wine. My joke line is a whole other complete different tale, but 516-922 wine is still going. That created comedy on Long Island. And I was working down in D.C., and this guy said, hey, you should contact this guy. He just got fired from the radio, but he's moving to New York. They hired him for WNBC in New York, and I bet you he'd love you. So I got home, and just like we sent him to a million people, me and Nancy sent the 3 comedy albums and the cassettes to Howard Stern, care of WNBC AM. I never heard of the guy, didn't know from radio. I drove around listening to the Eagles on cassette in my car. I was a hippie, played songs. I listened to my own music. I listened to the Eagles. I listened to Chicago,
Sure.
And we sent the stuff. And a couple of months later, I think he came up to New York in like September or October. And this was February. And by this time, me and Nancy are living in a rented house, but the first Jokeland, my first actual, what I call Jokeland is where I operate out of, was in my mother's attic. And I was sitting in my mother's attic and the phone rang and Nancy says, hey, that disc jockey Howard Stern just called. He wants you to call him. I said, all right. So I called NBC and I said, I want to talk to Howard Stern and returned his call. He got right on the phone and he said, hey, listen, we listened to your records. We think you're funny. And we're having a talent contest on the radio today. Over the telephone. People are going to call in and perform for us. Do you want to come in and be one of the judges? And at the time, I'm working at Governor's in Levittown, and this is New York City, Rockefeller Center. It was a pretty easy answer, So I said, well, I'll be right there. And I drove in, and it's so funny because I walked in, and it was Howard and Robin and Fred. And I sat down. And that's exactly who was there the last day in 2001. The last day I worked there was Howard and Robin and me and Fred.
Wow.
But I walked in there and sat down, and I never really did radio before. I'd get interviewed once in a while when I was doing a gig, but not even a lot because I wasn't that famous yet. It's funny, I used to go on with John DeBella in Philadelphia, but it wasn't really doing radio. It was kind of hanging out. But I walked in and sat down and just had a great time for 3 or 4 hours. And at the end of the show, Howard said, man, you're a lot of fun. Why don't you come back next week? I said, sure. So I came in once a week for free for 3 years. Slowly but surely passing him notes and ideas and making him funnier. And then he got fired and hired at K-Rock. And then when he went to the mornings at K-Rock, I joined the show, and then pretty soon I was on full time, and we went to Pluto.
Yeah.
That simple. I told people in my show, I say, I use my diploma to roll pot.
There you go. That you're a consummate comedian and the funniest guy since Buddy Hackett. That's a pretty big compliment.
Wow. Buddy Hackett. I'm kidding. No, I'll tell you, after the first Friars roast I went to, we all went back to the Friars. And I was sitting next to Buddy and Henny and the whole gang. And we're all fooling around. And all of a sudden I realized, I'm not like some kid that's just a fly in the wall here. I'm part of this gang. I'm contributing and being funny. And I'm like, wow, I belong here,
Was there ever a particular comedian that you got to meet where you really did lose your mind, secretly, oh my God, I've always wanted to meet this one, or any particular guest that came on the show that made you really?
What is really crazy is the answer to that is yes.
Okay.
And it was Rodney, and I wound up giving him his best joke ever, and I wound up going away with him. Okay. It wasn't like I had people that I liked, but I got to hang out with this guy. This is the guy that I thought was the greatest because he's joke.
Yeah.
No time in between, no fucking around. Joke.
Relentless.
And then he bought some jokes for me, and then I wound up going away with him. And every second of the 2 weeks that we're on the road were like, just stellar, because he was just such a character. I mean, there's other people that, well, your jaw drops a little. It's great to meet Roger Daltrey, but, we...
Oh, yeah.
When we were in England, we were sitting there at the Princess Trust concert. We actually broadcast for a whole week from Abbey Road Studios, which is,
wow.
I mean, pinch me, right?
Yeah.
And then we went to the Princess Trust concert, and we're sitting up in the catacombs interviewing people before the show, and the Bee Gees sat across the table from us and sang a cappella.
Oh, my God.
And I'm like, you got to be kidding me.
How easy was it to pull trim out there?
What?
Well, I was married the whole time. So,
Well, if you weren't married.
No, but you know what the truth of it is? The truth of it is, what's really funny is the old story is the worst musician that plays bass in the worst band in the worst Holiday Inn in the middle of nowhere
gets tons of
the chicks come up and give them their underwear and hotel keys.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, the best comedian in the world comes off stage at Carnegie Hall, and a woman comes up to him and points over and says, "My husband thinks you're funny."
Oh,
that's the pussy story for
for the comedian.
I mean, of course, there were girls. The girls that chased the Howard Stern show, he would talk about these women on the air, and people would be like, wow, their minds. And meanwhile, my God, most of the girls that came in and took their shirts off, we were like, me and Fred are like, put it on. But, and there was stuff you could do, but it wasn't, you know what? It kept me honest, because there was no way, even if I wanted to, I couldn't have got away with anything. If I some girl, she wouldn't even let me finish, because she'd be so busy getting to the phone so she could call Gary and tell him that she just Jackie,
Oh my God.
So I kind of, I was a victim of my own circumstance.
Yeah, I'm a victim of circumstance. Oh my God.
Circumstance. But that was great, though. But what was really great is the whole world thought. I would be in the Grand Central Parkway on the way home, caught in, in construction traffic, and the Stern Show made New York a small town. It would that was what amazed. Like, if I was late in the morning, all the cars around me, "You idiot! So they're waiting for you. What are you doing?" And I'd be coming home at 12 o'clock noon with the windows open in traffic, and like the guy next to me wouldn't say, "Wait a minute, are you Jackie? Are you that guy from the Stern Show? Hey, do I know you?" They'd look over and nonchalantly say, "What'd she look like?" And I go, the Howard made her sound a lot better than she was. That's what I thought. Like, mid-conversation. Like he'd been my friend my whole life, which I just thought was so, that was the greatest thing. It made New York a village, It was great.
Yeah.
But that was everything that happened on the show really happened. There was nothing made up like, hey, you pretend this and I'll pretend that. The only thing that was made up is if he said a girl was a 9, she was more like a 0.9.
No, she's
I would not change as far as my life and what I did growing up, and I did some foul things and some stupid things, and high school and college and the Stern Show and leaving and all. I would not change anything. If I hadn't left the Stern Show, I might have been dead a month later. Not that I had such a drinking problem, but all you have to do is get drunk on a Saturday night and fall asleep on the way home,
right?
Or God forbid, kill other people. So I did. I left the show. I got divorced, quit drinking, and moved into a house on the beach by myself. People, oh, Nancy left Jackie when he lost his job. No, we were long divorced. We just hadn't gone through it yet. She's still like one of my very, very best friends. She lives like 2 doors away from me here, But I wouldn't change nothing. I quit drinking. I would have never quit drinking if I was still on the show, until I ran into a tree, I was living a life,
Right.
I was out there living it. When I started on that show, they used to make fun of me because Howard and Robin and Fred and Gary knew everything about every Munsters episode and every Partridge Family and Brady Bunch, and they knew all this stuff. And I didn't know any of it. And they thought, what are you, an idiot? What are you, raised in a closet? I'm like, no, you guys were sitting with your mother watching television. I was out drinking, smoking pot, girls, playing rock and roll. I was living. I was out living my life while you guys were watching the Brady Bunch. Oh, look at Jackie. He doesn't know that episode. No, I don't know that episode. No, I don't know it. You know, I actually wound up making a movie where I got to make out with Mrs. Brady.
Oh,
are you kidding?
Really?
What's the name of that movie? I got to see that.
Look at you. Was this bathroom material for you?
Yeah,
what are you talking about?
It's good
Don't
porn.
tell him, Jackie. Don't tell him. Oh my God.
Venus and Vegas.
Venus and
That's what it's
Vegas.
called. Venus and Vegas.
It sounds
it's so
stimulating.
Great. But
Fair
the COVID
enough.
joke is the guy goes to his neighbor's house and knocks on the door. And the neighbor answers and he says, hey man, since the COVID hit, I haven't seen your wife. The neighbor says, oh, she's out back in the garden. He says, well, I was just out there. I didn't see her. He says, well, you got to dig down a little bit. The guy walks in, his wife's watching television, and she's yelling at the screen, don't do it! Don't go in that church! You told, don't go in that church! He says, what are you watching? She says, our wedding video.